Princess Zara stood in the great hall of the High Council. Her blue skin glowed. Softly in the crystal light, 7 tall figures sat before her on thrones made of pure energy. These were the rulers of the Valera Empire. They had power over thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Zara's father, Emperor Thex, looked down at her with cold eyes. His face showed no love for his daughter, only anger and shame. Zara had tried to change their empire. She wanted to make friends with humans and other weak races. The council called this madness. Princess Zara said, Counselor Vex, in a voice like breaking glass, you have brought shame to our people. You tried to help the humans. You said they were our equals. This is a great crime. Zara lifted her chin high. She would not show fear. I still believe humans have value. They are not animals. They have hearts and minds like us. The council members made sounds of disgust. Emperor Thex stood up from his throne. He was 9 ft tall and covered in crystal armor. When he spoke, his voice filled the huge room. You love humans so much, then you will learn what they truly are. You will marry one of them. You will live with them on their dirty little world. This is your punishment. Zara felt her heart stop. Marriage to a human was the worst thing that could happen to a Velora princess. There, people saw humans as barely above animals. To marry one meant losing all honor forever. Father, please, Zara whispered, send me to prison. Take away my title, but do not do this to me. It is done, Emperor Thex said. The human colony on Haven needs protection. Their leader will marry you. You will be his wife until you die. Maybe then you understand why humans are nothing. Far away on the planet Haven, Captain Jake Murphy got a message that changed his life. He was fixing a broken water pump when his friend Ben Clark ran up to him. Jake, you need to see this, Ben said. He held a small screen in his hands. His face was white with shock. Jake wiped his dirty hands and took the screen. The message was from the Valder Empire. It said they wanted to make a deal. They would give his colony protection from space pirates. In return, Jake had to marry their princess. This has to be a joke, Jake said. He read the message again. It was real. Jake was 35 years old. He had been a soldier before coming to Haven. Now he led 300 humans who had left Earth to start a new life. They worked hard every day to build homes and grow food. Space pirates attacked them. Often, they had no way to fight the big ships. What do you think? Ben asked. Princess must have done something very bad. Marriage to a human is like torture to them. Jake thought about his people. They needed protection. Without it, they might all die. He did not want to marry someone who hated him, but he had a duty to keep his people safe. Tell them yes, Jake said finally, but I want to know what she did wrong first. The answer came quickly. Princess Zara had tried to start a rebellion. She wanted the Valera to treat other races as equals. She had failed and now faced the worst punishment their people could. If 3 days later, a great ship came down from the sky, it was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. The ship was made of crystal and metal that shined like stars. When it landed, the ground shook for miles. Princess Zara walked out of the ship. Jake had never seen anything like her. She was 7 ft tall with skin that glowed blue like the ocean. Her hair was silver and moved like water. She wore armor made of living crystal that changed colors in the light. Behind her came 20 Valder Guards, they looked at the human settlement with disgust. The houses were made of wood and stone, compared to Valther cities of crystal and light. It looked poor and dirty. Jake walked forward to meet his future wife. He wore his best clothes but felt very small. Next to her, when their eyes met, he saw anger and pain. She hated being here. She hated him without even knowing him. Princess Zara, Jake said with a small bow. Welcome to Haven. Zara looked down at him like he was an insect. Let us get this over with, she said in perfect English. Her voice was cold as space. The wedding took place. The next day, it was not a happy event. Princess Zara stood like a statue in her crystal armor. Jake wore his old military uniform. The vow priest spoke words in their language that sounded like singing. When it was time to kiss, Zara turned her face away. Jake did not push it. He could see she was fighting not to cry. This was the worst day of her life. The human colonists watched in silence. They knew this marriage would save them from pirates, but they also felt sorry for both Jake and the princess. Nobody should have to marry someone they hated. After the ceremony, most of the Vithara left. Only 2 guards stayed to watch the princess. They would make sure she did not try to escape her punishment. Jake showed Zara to their house. It was small but clean. He had given her the best room and moved his things to the basement. She looked around at the simple furniture and books with surprise. You can read, she asked. Yes, Jake said. All humans can read. This seemed to shock her. She had been told humans were like smart animals. Animals could not read books or make art. I will not share a bed with you, Zara said firmly. I did not expect you to, Jake replied. This marriage is just on paper. You are safe here. For the first time, Zara looked at him with something other than hate. Maybe it was surprise. She had expected him to force himself on her. That is what she had been told human males did. That night, Zara sat by her window and looked at the stars. On one of those distant lights was her home. She would never see it again. She was trapped on this world with creatures she had been taught to despise, but already small doubts crept into her mind. The human Jake had been kind to her. He had not tried to hurt her or use her. His people had watched the wedding with sad faces, as if they cared about her feelings. Maybe humans were not exactly what she had been told, but she was still angry and proud. It would take much more than kindness to change her mind about the race that had stolen her life. Outside her window, the 2 moons of Haven rose into the night sky. Zara closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges in this strange world of humans. Zara woke up to strange sounds outside her window. She heard voices talking and laughing. There was the sound of hammers hitting wood and machines working. She had expected the human settlement to be quiet and lazy. Instead, it seemed full of life and activity. She got dressed in a simple blue robe and looked out her window. What she saw surprised her. Humans were already working, even though the sun had just come up. Some were building new houses. Others were working in gardens full of green plants. Children ran between the workers, playing games and helping with small tasks. Settlement was not what Zara had expected. Her people had told her human colonies were dirty and falling apart. But Haven looked clean and well organized. The houses were simple but strong. The streets were straight and had no trash. Everything had a purpose in place. Jake knocked on her door. Princess Zara, I brought you breakfast. She opened the door and found him holding a wooden tray. On it was food she had never seen before. There were round flat cakes with sweet syrup. There were eggs and some kind of meat. The smells made her stomach growl. What is this? She asked, taking the tray. Pancakes, eggs, and bacon. Jake said, I was not sure what you eat, so I made human food. If you do not like it, I can find something else. Sarah was surprised again. She had expected him to force her to eat whatever he wanted. Instead, he was worried about her comfort. She tasted the pancakes carefully. They were sweet and soft, much better than she had expected. It is acceptable, she said, trying not to show that she liked it. Jake smiled a little. Good. When you are ready, I can show you around the settlement. You might want to see where you will be living. After breakfast, Jake took Zara on a tour of Haven. He showed her the workshops where humans made tools and furniture. He showed her the medical center where a woman named Dr. Lisa Park took care of sick people. He showed her the school where human children learned to read and do math. How long did it take to build all this? Zara asked. 5 years, Jake said. When we first got here, this was just empty land. We had to cut down trees and clear rocks. We had to learn which plants we could eat and which animals were dangerous. Zara looked around with new eyes. Her people had cities that took hundreds of years to build, but they used advanced technology and millions of workers. These humans had built a real town with just their hands and simple tools. At the school, she watched human children learning. The teacher, Mrs. Carol Davis, was showing them pictures of different planets. The children asked many questions and seemed excited to learn. Their children were taught to be quiet and obey. These human children were encouraged to be curious. Why do you let them ask so many questions? Zara asked. Jake, how else will they learn? Jake replied. Questions are good. They show the children are thinking. This was very different from Valara schools. There, students listened and repeated what they were told. Questions were seen as disrespect. As they walked, people stopped to say hello to Jake. They called him by his first name, not by title. Some made jokes and he laughed with them. Zara had never seen a leader act like this. In her world, rulers kept distance from their subjects. Are you not afraid they will stop respecting you? She asked. Jake looked confused. Why would being friendly make them stop respecting me? These people chose to follow me to a new world. They trust me with their lives. The least I can do is treat them like friends. That afternoon, Jake showed Zara the edge of the settlement. Here, humans were cutting down trees and preparing new land for farming. It was hard work, but they sang songs while they worked. They helped each other lift heavy logs and shared water when someone got tired. Your people work very hard, Zara said. On my world, we have machines to do such work. We have some machines too, Jake said, but not many. We had to choose what to bring from Earth. We picked things that would help us survive, not things that would make life easy. As evening came, something happened that changed everything. Loud alarms started ringing all over the settlement. People dropped their tools and ran toward their houses. Jake's face became hard and serious. What is happening? Zara asked. Raiders, Jake said. Space pirates. They attack settlements like ours to steal supplies and capture people. Zara looked up at the sky. 3 dark ships were coming down fast. They were not as big as Vale Thara ships, but they had many weapons. She expected Jake to run and hide. Instead, he did something that shocked her. Jake ran toward the danger, not away from it. He shouted orders to his people. Get the children to the bunkers. Mark, get the weapons from storage. Ben, take 10 people to the south wall. Zara watched as the humans moved like soldiers. They were scared, but they did not panic. They grabbed weapons and took positions around the settlement. Even people who looked like shopkeepers and farmers moved with purpose. Jake ran to building and came out carrying a large gun. He also had armor that looked old but strong. Other humans were doing the same thing. In just a few minutes, the peaceful settlement had become ready for war. Stay in the house, Jake told Zara. The bunkers are safer, but I know you can protect yourself if needed. Then he ran toward the fight. Zara watched from her window as the raider ships landed. Ugly creatures poured out of them. They had weapons that shot bright energy beams. They screamed and charged toward the human buildings, but the humans were ready. They shot from behind walls and buildings. They used the land itself to their advantage. When raiders got too close, the humans fought with knives and bare hands. Jake was in the middle of the fighting. He moved like a dancer, always in the right place at the right time. When a big raider charged at him with a sword, Jake rolled to the side and shot him. When 3 raiders tried to surround him, he threw something that exploded and scattered them. Zara had been told that humans were cowards who ran from danger, but she could see this was not true. Jake and his people fought like heroes from the old stories. They protected each other and never gave up. The battle lasted for an hour. When it was over, the raiders were dead or running back to their ships. The humans had won, but some were hurt. Zara watched Jake check on every wounded person. He knew all their names and spoke gently to them. That night, the settlement was quiet again. The humans cleaned up the damage and took care of their injured friends. Nobody complained or cried. They just did what needed to be done. Jake came home very late. His armor was dirty and he had a cut on his arm. Zara had stayed awake waiting for him. She was not sure why. Are you hurt badly? She asked. Jake looked surprised by her question. Just a scratch, doctor. Park fixed it up. He sat down heavily in a chair. I am sorry you had to see that. Raiders attack us every few months. It is the price of living on the frontier. Your people fought very well, Zara said. I did not expect humans to be so brave. We fight for our home, Jake said. Simply, when you have something worth protecting, you find courage you did not know you had. Zara thought about his words as she went to bed. On her home world, soldiers fought because they were ordered to, but these humans fought to protect their families and friends. There was something powerful about that kind of motivation. For the first time since coming to Haven, Zara felt a tiny bit of respect for the humans around her. They were not the weak cowards she had been told about. They were something else entirely, something she did not yet understand but could no longer dismiss. Outside her window, the stars shone down on the peaceful settlement. Tomorrow would bring new surprises as Zara learned more about these strange, brave creatures called humans. Over the next few weeks, Zara found herself watching the humans more carefully. She told herself it was just curiosity, but Something deeper was happening. These creatures were not what her people had told her they would be. Every morning she watched Jake lead the settlement. He made decisions quickly, but always listened to other people. First, when there was not enough food for everyone, he made sure the children and elderly ate first. When there was hard work to do, he was always the first to pick up tools. One morning Zara heard screaming from the medical center. She ran outside and saw people carrying a woman toward Dr. Park's building. It was Lisa Park's sister, Amy, and she was having a baby, but something was wrong. Zara followed the crowd. Through the window, she could see Dr. Park and Jake working over Amy. The woman was in great pain and there was blood everywhere. Baby was not coming out the right way. We need to operate, Dr. Park said, but I do not have the right tools. This is too dangerous. Jake looked at the suffering woman, then at her husband who was crying in the corner. What do you need? He asked. Better equipment, cleaner tools. Medicine we do not have, Dr. Park said. Her voice was tired and scared. Jake thought for a moment, then he did something that surprised Zara. He took off his own shirt and tore it into clean strips. He boiled water and cleaned every tool twice. He sent people to find herbs that might help with pain. We work with what we have, Jake said. We do not give up. For the next 6 hours, Jake and Dr. Park fought to save Amy and her baby. They did not stop for food or rest. When Amy cried out in pain, Jake held her hand and told her she was strong. When Dr. Park's hands shook from tiredness, Jake steadied them. Zara watched through the window as these two humans refused to accept death. In Valera society, if someone was going to die, they accepted it as natural. The strong lived and the weak died. That was the way of the universe. But these humans did not believe in giving up. They used every bit of skill and strength they had. Boy, they turned a simple medical room into a place of miracles through pure determination. Finally, just as the sun was setting, they heard a baby cry. Amy was weak but alive. Her baby boy was small but healthy. The whole settlement cheered when Jake came outside with the good news. That night, Zara found Jake sitting alone outside his house. He was looking up at the stars and drinking something hot from a cup. He looked very tired but happy. May I sit with you? Zara asked. Jake looked surprised but moved over to make room. Of course, it is your house too. They sat in silence for a while. Then Zara asked, why did you work so hard to save them? On my world we would have accepted that she was going to die. Jake thought about her question. Because every life matters, he said. Finally, Amy has a family who loves her. She has dreams and hopes. Her baby deserves a chance to live and grow. Who are we to decide they should die? But she was weak, Zara said. In nature, the weak do not survive. This makes the species stronger. Maybe, Jake said, but Amy is not weak in her heart. She fought harder than any warrior I have seen, and her baby might grow up to cure diseases or write beautiful music. You cannot know what someone will become. This was a new idea for Zara. Her people believed that genetics decided everything. If you were born strong, you would be great. If you were born weak, you are not worth much. But Jake was saying that strength came from inside, not from your body. A few days later, Jake showed Zara his personal room in the basement. She expected to find weapons and military things. Instead, she found books, hundreds of them. The walls were covered with shelves full of stories and poems, and ideas from across human history. "You read all of these?" Zara asked in amazement. "Most of them," Jake said. "I brought them from Earth. When life gets hard, books remind me why we keep fighting." He pulled out a small book with worn pages. "This one is my favorite. It is about a man who loses everything but finds meaning in helping others." Zara took the book carefully. It was written by someone named Viktor Frankl. The pages were yellow and soft. From being read many times, she had never seen a Veil Thara treat a book with such care. "Can you read me some of it?" she asked. Jake looked surprised but opened the book. He read about a man in a terrible prison who found hope by choosing how to respond to suffering. The words were simple but powerful. They talked about finding meaning in pain and choosing to love even when the world was cruel. "This human was in prison?" Zara asked. "Yes, in one of the worst places humans ever created, but he learned that no one could take away his freedom to choose his attitude. Even when everything else was gone, he could still choose hope." Zara thought about this. Her own imprisonment on Haven was nothing compared to what this human had suffered, yet she had spent all her time feeling sorry for herself. This man had found ways to help other prisoners and stay strong. "Your species writes many books like this?" she asked. "Thousands," Jake said. "Humans love stories. We learn from them. They help us understand ourselves and each other." Jake began sharing more books with Zara. He showed her poetry that made her heart feel strange new emotions. He showed her stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. He showed her philosophy that made her think about life in new ways. But the biggest change came when a Vila patrol ship arrived. Captain Sex, one of her father's military leaders, came down to inspect the settlement. Zara expected him to treat Jake with the respect due to her husband. Instead, Sex acted like Jake was barely worth noticing. "So this is your human pet," Sex said in the Vila language. He thought Jake could not understand him, but Jake had been learning words from Zara. His face stayed calm, but Zara could see anger in his eyes. "Captain Sex," Zara said in English so Jake could understand. "This is my husband, Captain Jake Murphy. He is the leader of this settlement." Sex laughed. "Leader? These creatures can barely use tools. How can they lead anything?" Jake stepped forward. "I understand more Velara than you think. Captain, you are welcome here as Princess Zara's guest, but you will show respect to my people." Sex's face turned angry. No human had ever spoken to him like that. "You dare give orders to a Velar warrior in my settlement?" "Yes," Jake said calmly. "Here everyone follows the same rules, even princes and captains." For a moment Zara thought Sex might attack Jake, but then something unexpected happened. Several human colonists had quietly moved to stand behind Jake. They were not threatening, but they were ready to protect their leader. Sex looked around and saw he was outnumbered. More importantly, he saw that these humans truly respected Jake. They would fight for him if needed. This was not something Sex understood. Vila followed orders out of fear. These humans followed Jake out of love. That night after Sex had left, Zara found herself angry at her own people. For the first time, the captain had been rude and arrogant. He had judged the humans without trying to understand them. "I apologize for Captain Sex," she told Jake. "He was wrong to treat you That way, Jake smiled sadly. Your people see what they expect to see. They think we are animals, so they cannot see our true nature. What is your true nature? Zara asked. Jake thought for a long time. We are dreamers, he said finally. We believe things can always get better. We believe every person has value. We believe love is stronger than hate, even when the world tells us we are wrong. That night, Zara lay in her bed thinking about Jake's words. She was beginning to see that humans had something her advanced people had lost. They had hope. They had the ability to see beauty in simple things. They had the courage to care about each other even when it was dangerous. For the first time since coming to Haven, Zara wondered if her punishment might actually be a gift. She was learning things about life and love that no Villara princess had ever known. The question was, what would she do with this knowledge? Outside her window, the first light of dawn was breaking over the human settlement. Another day was beginning, and with it new chances to understand these remarkable creatures called humans. The storm came without warning. Zara woke up to the sound of wind howling like angry spirits. Rain pounded against her window so hard she thought the glass might break. Lightning filled the sky with bright white light every few seconds. She got dressed quickly and went downstairs. Jake was already awake, talking on his radio to people around the settlement. His face was serious and worried. How bad is it? Zara asked. Bad, Jake said. The weather station says this storm will last for 3 days. The wind is already over 100 mph. If it gets worse, it could destroy everything we have built. Zara looked outside. She could see trees bending almost to the ground. Pieces of wood and metal were flying through the air like deadly weapons. Some of the smaller buildings were already starting to fall apart. Your people should evacuate, Zara said. My ship has enough room for everyone. We can wait out the storm safely in space. Jake shook his head. This is our home. We are not going to abandon it. Do not be foolish, Zara said. You cannot fight nature. Even my people would retreat from a storm like this, maybe. That is the difference between your people and mine, Jake said. He put on his storm coat and boots. We do not give up on things we love. For the next hour, Zara watched Jake organize his people. Like a general preparing for war, he sent teams to tie down everything that could blow away. He moved families from weak buildings to stronger ones. He made sure everyone had food, water, and warm clothes. But the storm kept getting worse. The wind reached 150 mph. Rain came down so hard that people could not see more than a few feet. The river that ran through the settlement started to flood. Jake, Dr. Park called on the radio. The medical center is flooding. We need to move the patients. Ben, Jake called to his friend. Take 10 people and help move everyone to the school building. It is on higher ground, but when Ben's team tried to leave, they found the streets had become rivers. Water was too deep and fast for people to walk through safely. Worse, the bridge across the main river had been damaged. Soon it might collapse completely. We are trapped, Ben said when he came back. The water is rising too fast. Jake looked around at his people. There were 300 humans counting on him to keep them safe. The logical thing would be to give up and evacuate to Zara's ship. But Jake had never been logical when it came to protecting what he loved. We are going to save our town, he announced. Carol, get everyone who knows how to build things. Mark, bring all the rope and tools we have. We are going to reinforce the bridge and pump out the water. That is impossible, Zara said. The storm is too strong. Even with your technology, you cannot fight this much water and wind. Jake looked at her with eyes full of determination. Maybe, but we have to try. This settlement is not just buildings and roads. It is our home. It is our future. It is worth fighting for. Zara watched in amazement as the humans went to work. They tied ropes around their waists so they would not blow away. They used boards and metal sheets to make the building stronger. They worked together to move sandbags and pump water. It was the most dangerous thing Zara had ever seen. The wind was so strong it could pick up a person and throw them like a toy. The rain was so hard it felt like tiny hammers hitting everything. Lightning struck close by every few minutes, but the humans did not stop. When someone got hurt, 2 others would help them and keep working. When a tool broke, they found another way to do the job. When the task seemed impossible, they broke it into smaller pieces and solved each one. Zara found herself helping without thinking about it. She used her Valara strength to lift heavy things the humans could not move. She used her technology to see through the storm and guide the work teams. For the first time in her life, she was working alongside others toward a common goal. The real test came when the bridge started to collapse. It was the only way to reach the houses on the other side of the river. If it fell, 20 families would be trapped with no way to escape. The rising water, I have to go fix it, Jake said. He was already putting on safety ropes. You will die, Zara said. The bridge is falling apart. The water is moving too fast. No one can survive out there. Maybe, Jake said, but if I do not try, 20 families will definitely die. I cannot live with that. Before Zara could stop him, Jake was gone. She watched from the window as he fought his way across the breaking bridge. The wind tried to throw him into the violent river below. The rain made everything slippery and dangerous. Halfway across, part of the bridge collapsed under his feet. Jake fell and caught himself by one hand. He hung over the rushing water. That would kill him in seconds if he fell. Zara felt her heart stop. She realized she was terrified of losing this brave, stubborn human, but Jake did not give up. He pulled himself back onto the bridge and kept going. He reached the other side and began working to fix the support beams. Other humans threw him tools and supplies across the gap. For 2 hours, Jake worked alone in the storm. He was soaked, cold, and exhausted, but he did not stop until the bridge was strong enough for people to cross. Then he helped evacuate all 20 families to safety. When Jake finally came back, he could barely stand. Zara caught him as he stumbled through the door. His lips were blue from cold and his hands were cut from working with sharp metal. You crazy human, Zara said, holding him up. You almost died out there, but I did not die, Jake said with a tired smile. And everyone is safe. That is what matters. Dr. Park came to check on Jake. While she treated his cuts, Zara made him hot soup and wrapped him in warm blankets. She had never taken care of anyone before. Beldera did not show such personal concern for each other. Why did you risk your life for those people? Zara asked. Some of them are not even your friends. They are my responsibility, Jake said. When you are a leader, everyone depends on you. You do whatever it takes to protect them, even if it kills you, especially then. Jake said, a life spent protecting others is a life well lived. The storm lasted 3 more days, but the settlement survived. When the sun finally came out, the humans began repairing the damage. They worked together like they had during the storm. Nobody complained or asked for special treatment. Zara helped with the cleanup. She found that working alongside the humans felt good in a way she had never experienced. On her home world, everyone had their assigned role and never changed. Here, everyone did whatever needed to be done. Thank you for your help during the storm, Jake said one evening as they sat watching the sunset. We could not have saved the town without you. I have never worked like that before, Zara admitted. On my world, we each have our place. Royalty does not do manual labor. What do you think of it now? Jake asked. Zara thought carefully. I think working together feels better than being alone on a throne. Jake smiled. That is the secret humans learned long ago. We are stronger together than apart. Even the greatest person cannot do everything alone. As the days passed, Zara found herself spending more time with Jake, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They would talk about books and ideas. They would walk around the settlement and Jake would tell her stories about the people they met. She learned that Jake had been a soldier who lost his whole family in a war. He came to Haven to forget his pain, but ended up finding a new family among the colonists. She learned that he loved music and could play an old guitar. She learned that he dreamed of a day when all species could live together in peace. Jake learned that Zara had always felt trapped by her royal duties. She had wanted to explore the galaxy and meet new people, but her father kept her locked in the palace. She had started the rebellion not for power but for freedom. I used to think freedom meant being able to do whatever I wanted, Zara said one night, but now I think it means being able to choose what you care about. And what do you choose to care about? Jake asked. Zara looked around at the settlement they had saved together. She looked at Jake's kind face in the starlight. For the first time since coming to Haven, she knew her answer. I choose to care about this place, she said, and about the people in it, including you. Jake reached out and took her hand. It was the first time they had touched since their wedding day, but now it felt different. It felt like a choice they were both making freely. I care about you too, Jake said quietly. You are nothing like what I expected when they told me I had to marry an alien princess. What did you expect? Zara asked. Someone cold and proud who would look down on us, Jake said. Instead, I found someone brave and kind who just needed a chance to see what humans are really like. Zara felt something warm spreading through her chest. It was an emotion she had never experienced before. Later she would learn that humans called it love, but for now she just knew that being with Jake felt like coming home after a long journey. The storm had changed everything. It had shown Zara what humans were capable of when they worked together. It had shown her that courage was not about being fearless, but about doing what was right, even when you were afraid. Most importantly, it had shown her that her punishment had become something wonderful. She had found not just a husband, but a partner, someone who saw her not as a princess or an alien, but as herself. As they sat together under the stars of Haven, Zara realized that for the first time in 3 Months after the great storm, everything changed again. A massive Velar ship appeared in the sky above Haven. It was 10 times bigger than any ship Zara had ever seen. The golden hull sparkled in the sunlight like a jewel. This was the Emperor's personal warship. Zara felt her blood turn cold. Her father had come to check on her. Punishment. She knew he expected to find her broken and begging to come home. Instead, he would find her happy and in love with a human. This would make him very angry. The ship landed in the field outside Haven. Emperor Thex walked out, followed by 50 royal guards. He was even taller than Zara remembered, and his crystal armor made him look like a god of war. The human colonists stopped working to stare at this terrifying figure. Jake stood beside Zara as her father approached. He showed no fear, even though the Emperor could kill him with one hand. Zara felt proud of her husband's courage. Father, Zara said, bowing her head slightly, you honor us with your visit. Emperor Thex looked at his daughter carefully. She looked healthy and strong. Her skin glowed brighter than before. She stood straight and proud beside the human male. This was not what he had expected. Daughter, the Emperor said in their language, I have come to see how your punishment progresses. Have you learned the truth about these inferior creatures? I have learned much, father, Zara replied in English so Jake could understand. But perhaps not what you expected. Emperor Thex's eyes narrowed. You speak their primitive language to me. Have you forgotten who you are? I am Princess Zara of the Vale Thor Empire, she said firmly, but I am also the wife of Captain Jake Murphy and a citizen of Haven. I have not forgotten my past, but I have chosen my future. The Emperor and LT Uncan GT's face grew dark with anger. This human has poisoned your mind. You were once the pride of our people. Now you stand with animals and call them equals. Jake stepped forward. Your Majesty, he said in careful, Vylora, your daughter, has brought great honor to both our peoples. She helped save our settlement and has shown us the best of Valora. Wisdom. Emperor Thex stared at Jake in surprise. You speak our language. Princess Zara has been teaching me, Jake said, just as I have been teaching her about humans. We learn from each other. Impossible. The Emperor said, humans cannot understand Vila concepts. Your minds are too simple. Jake smiled slightly. Then perhaps you could test that theory, your Majesty. I would be honored to discuss philosophy with the great Emperor Thex for the next hour. Jake and the Emperor talked about justice, leadership, and the meaning of strength. Jake quoted Valathor, philosophers and human thinkers alike. He showed that he understood complex ideas about duty, honor, and sacrifice. Emperor Thex was shocked. He had been told humans were barely above animals. But this human knew more philosophy than many felt. There are nobles. Worse, his ideas were actually interesting and thoughtful. You are unusual for your species, the Emperor admitted. No, your Majesty, Jake said, I am typical. Humans love to learn and grow. We study the wisdom of all peoples, including yours. Princess Zara has taught me that Vila knowledge is deep and beautiful. That evening, Emperor Thex demanded to speak with Zara alone. They walked through the settlement as the sun set behind the mountains. The Emperor saw humans reading books to their children. He saw them sharing food with neighbors. He saw them creating art and music just for the joy of it. This place is not what I expected, he admitted. What did you Expect father, squalor chaos. Primitive beings fighting over scraps. The emperor looked around at the clean, peaceful streets. Instead I find civilization. Humans are civilized. Father, just in a different way than us. They value things we have forgotten, such as, Zara thought carefully, hope. Love, the belief that everyone deserves a chance to grow and change. They see potential where we see only weakness. Emperor Thex stopped walking. And what do you see in that human male? I see someone who would die to protect. Other, someone who finds joy in simple things, someone who believes the future can be better than the past. Zara's voice grew soft. I see the man I love. Love, the emperor's voice was sharp. That is a human weakness, is it, Zara? Asked. Love made Jake risk his life to save 20 families during the storm. Love makes these humans work together instead of fighting each other. Love makes them care for the sick and teach their children. How is that weakness, Emperor? Thex had no answer. In Valara society, people followed rules and did their duty, but they did not love each other the way these humans did. They did not sacrifice for strangers or choose to help when no one was watching. The real test came the next day. Emperor Thex challenged Jake to single combat. In Valara culture, this was how disputes were settled. If Jake lost, he would die, and Zara would be forced to return home. If he won, the emperor would accept their marriage. The entire settlement gathered to watch. Jake put on his old military armor and carried his best weapons, but he looked tiny compared to the 9ft tall emperor in his crystal battle suit. I do not wish to kill you, human, Emperor Thex said. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. I appreciate the offer, Jake said calmly, but I have something worth fighting for that makes me dangerous. The fight began. Emperor Thex was faster, stronger, and had better weapons. His first attack knocked Jake to the ground. His second attack broke Jake's shield. It seemed like the fight would be over quickly, but Jake did not give up. He rolled away from the emperor's sword and came up fighting. He used his knowledge of the battlefield to stay alive. When he could not match the emperor's strength, he used speed. When he could not use speed, he used cleverness. For 20 minutes Jake fought like his life depended on it. Because it did. He took terrible wounds but kept fighting. Every time the emperor knocked him down, Jake got back up. Finally, the emperor's sword found its mark. Jake fell to his knees, bleeding badly. The fight was over. Emperor Thex raised his weapon for the killing blow. Stop, Zara cried out. She ran onto the battlefield and threw herself between her father and her husband. Move aside, daughter, Emperor Thex commanded. No, Zara said firmly. If you want to kill him, you will have to kill me too. Emperor Thex stared at his daughter. Shock. You would die for this human. Yes, Zara said without hesitation. Just as he would die for me. That is what love means. The emperor looked down at Jake, who was struggling to stand. Despite his wounds, the human's face was bloody, but his eyes were still fierce. He had lost the fight, but he had not been broken. You fought well, Emperor, Thex said quietly. Better than I expected. I fought for something I love, Jake replied. That gives any warrior strength. Emperor Thex slowly lowered his sword. He looked at his daughter, standing protectively over her wounded husband. He looked at the human colonists who had gathered around their leader with love and concern. He had never seen anything like this loyalty. The fight is over, the emperor announced, I declare Jake Murphy to be worthy of my daughter, the humans. Cheered with joy, Dr. Park rushed forward to treat Jake's wounds. Zara held her husband's hand as he was carried to the medical center. That night, as Jake recovered, Emperor Thex sat with Zara outside the medical center. I came here to bring you home, he said, to end this shameful punishment. And now I see that your punishment has become something else. You have found happiness. More than that, you have found purpose. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. I have been wrong about humans. They are not animals. They are different from us, but not inferior. What will you tell the council? Zara asked. That my daughter has made an alliance with a worthy people, that the Valera Empire should learn from humans, not destroy them. Zara felt tears in her eyes. You would do that for me? I would do that for the future, her father said. Humans have something we lost long ago. They have the ability to change and grow. They have hope. Perhaps it is time for our people to remember how to hope as well. Emperor Thex stayed on Haven for another week. He talked with the human leaders about trade and cooperation. He watched children play and families work together. He began to understand what his daughter had discovered. When it was time to leave, the Emperor made an announcement that shocked both species. I offer Haven the protection of the Valther Empire, he said, not as subjects but as allies. In return, I ask that humans share their knowledge and wisdom with my people. Jake, still recovering from his wounds, stood to accept the offer. We would be honored to be friends with the Valthera, he said. Princess Zara has shown us that our two peoples have much to learn from each other. As the Emperor and LT Unk and GT's ship prepared to leave, he spoke privately with his daughter one last time. Will you ever come home? He asked. Haven is my home now, Zara said, but perhaps someday you could visit us again. There is still much I could teach you about humans. Emperor Thex smiled. It was the first time Zara had seen him smile in years. I would like that, daughter. I think these humans have much to teach all of us. After the Emperor left, life in Haven changed. Ships from many worlds began to visit, eager to trade with the settlement that had impressed the mighty Villara. The colony grew from 300 people to over 1,000 in just a few months. But for Zara and Jake, the most important changes were personal. They were no longer pretending to be married. They had fallen in love for real. They